Intellectual, although appears as a coherent umbrella term that encompasses different categories like patents, copyright, trademarks, geographical indications, industrial design, trade secrets, their role as drivers for creativity and innovation are quite disparate. The reason being that they have different economic implications depending on what subject matter gets protection, scope and duration of protection, availability of limitations, and exceptions, and the nature of remedial structure. Intellectual property has historically shown that it is a central pillar in a market-oriented economic system. Although there is nothing sanctimonious about statute-created IP as a form of economic regulation, economic theory contends that proprietary rights are of fundamental importance to businesses since they create protection against free riding by market players and expropriation by governments. However, it must be noted that different nations calibrate their IP systems based on their need and their level of socio-economic development. Again, such calibration is fundamental to IP jurisprudence even today, when courts and legislatures frequently intervene for further legal and policy course corrections. In this context, it will be important to understand how IP is linked to nation growth. The patent system developed out of a vision for industrial development in certain parts of Europe. Patent policies aimed at technology transfer and internal competition accrued industrial revolution in Great Britain in early 19th century. However, this was a period in which there was a total flexibility in terms of designing patents policies in favor of territorial or national interest. The second half of 19th century saw international consensus in patent protection through the Paris Convention of 1883. IPRs are a bundle of exclusive private rights granted for promoting the progress of science and useful arts. The theoretical underpinning suggests that IP acts as an incentive for innovation and thus benefits the society as a whole. However, the most fundamental rule in case of IP is to exclude competition by others, thus they also impose a social monopoly cost on the society. IP, although central to the concept of free markets, come along with cost of excluding competition, which equally forms the edifice of free markets. Consequently, the optimal IP policy would be one which balances the interest of the technology producers vis-a-vis the public interest in its use and consumption. While patents and all forms of IP generally find that their conceptual basis on the structure of property rights, there can also be important differences between tangible and intangible property rights. A. IPR generally and patent in particular are created by statute. B. By virtue of the nature as an intangible asset, the boundaries of IP rights are more specifically patent rights are unclear. There is no public notice function, for example, difference in genuine understanding of what the boundaries actually are and its potential to be interpreted subjectively at different stages. C. Courts and legislature often tailor the boundaries of IP by defining the patent eligibility. D. There can be remarkable conditions on the grant of patents, for example, patent trademark law, principles of acquiescence, independence, innovation. E. Like tangible property, IP can be acquired by the government for non-commercial purposes also. F. IP can be compulsorily licensed. It follows that IP holder has to be compensated, and so one can violate and later compensate the least post. In case of Ambe, you find that the decision of the Supreme Court in certain cases where IP is crucial aspect of the standardization compensatory liability regime, where no IP holder can refuse to license can be invoked. Such an analogy is missing in case of real property. Refusal to license an attractive competition law provision and a judicial remedy that IP holder can ask to freely share his intellectual property. An IP holder whose IP is invalidated at a subsequent stage will not be liable for damages or for accounts of profit. In case of property invalidation of rights might also warrant that he is made liable for unlawful possession. There is no principle of restitution in case of IP. These principles are fundamental to understanding how IP must be balanced as a proprietary right, and thus consider national growth and socio-economic issues as central to the discourse. Over the past decade, India has substantially intensified the production of IP. This has although happened due to a number of commitment factors. The principal cause can be attributed to India's obligations under the agreement on TRIPS. The existing patent, industrial design, copyright and trademark legislations was either drastically amended or reinforced to fully comply the TRIPS agreement mandate. Thus, since a decade and a half, India has been seen significant reforms in IP policy in the wake of globalization under the WTO. However, the TRIPS agreement was a watershed where the individual countries were left with little or no policy options due to limited nature of flexibilities. The binding nature of obligations came out as factors on countries' willingness to bypass the international norms, thereby allowing it to frame policies in national interest. As some may wish to point out, the TRIPS agreement is drawn by regulatory capture and hence is alleged to lack sound sense of balance in allowing countries to move on the growth path. It is in this context that we normally attribute the TRIPS agreement for disallowing countries to frame optimal patents policies in the light of socio-economic objectives. However, in the area of copyrights and trademark, India has traditionally been a high protectionist country. This may be owing to thriving film and music industry. With small global markets, local publishing industry and India is trying to cater to the software industry. It is interesting to note that India did not have to amend our copyright laws substantially to comply with the WTO TRIPS agreement, and we had very forward-looking copyright law. In fact, India was among the very few countries which had software copyright amendments in 1980s. One of the important factors that commentators and experts like IP protection with nation growth is in the area of geographical indications. The economics of GI is indeed local. It is likely that with stronger GI protection, local communities and business engagement in the protection of distinctive goods from certain specific geographical territories will benefit. However, this needs to be seen in the longer term. There is no evidence that the regime has started showing immediate benefit. It is important to look into changing alliances in the industry. IP as a tool of attracting FDI. One of the major criticisms of current Indian patent policy is the allowance of product patent and drug and chemicals, which it would have been preferred to avoid if not the TRIPS mandate. IP policy for national growth has to look into changing business models and cater to all sections of the society. B. It is important to consider alternative innovation model like open source and open innovation to products and services that markets cannot produce, for example, neglected diseases disproportionately affecting the developing world. IP policy for national growth has to consider civil liberties when enforced. Draconian criminal remedies cannot be allowed as far as the individuals and the other infringers are rectified. Currently, IP policy making suffers from lack of empirical evidence. IP policy must be empirical based and not faith based. Since there are recommendations for new forms of IP, it is important that the stakeholders are taken on board with sound economic evidence generated in support of such claims. Normally, the people, those who are framing the national policy, should have a sound idea of what the IPR regime is. That would make a lot of sense if those people would give input which will further strengthen the IP regime in India. On the larger economic framework and on a balance of factors, balanced IP protection is needed and would favor economic growth. This is an admitted fact. India is no exception to this. However, stronger IP could shape markets to innovate and transfer technology through a vertical structure of negotiated licenses. While it is true that the policy shift in favor of stronger IP need not necessarily bring in larger investments. It is equally true that without basic protection there would be no market floor in certain industry. IP seemed to be a second best solution to the problem of incentives. However, as the industry matures and consolidates, it will play a very vital role in creating dynamic efficiencies in long term. And as far as the India is concerned, with the growing GDP growth rate, IPR regime is a very important domain which India need to protect and also mandated to be in consonance with the regulatory regime at the national and the international level.